What if the reason your hair keeps falling out has nothing to do with genetics, aging, or bad luck, but with something you do every single morning without even thinking about it? A habit so common, so automatic, that you would never suspect it is silently destroying your hair from the root. Today, you are going to discover exactly what it is, why it causes so much damage, and how to fix it starting tomorrow morning. Stay until the end, because what you will learn could literally save your hair. You are watching Healthy Habits. Subscribe to discover the secrets to a more conscious and healthy life. Now, get comfortable and take notes. Let's begin. Let's be honest. Hair loss is one of those things that quietly chips away at your confidence. You see strands on your pillow, clumps in the shower drain, and that slowly widening part in your hair. You try new shampoos, supplements, maybe even expensive treatments, but nothing seems to work. And the frustrating part, the real culprit, might be hiding in plain sight, right there in your morning routine. Before we reveal the habit, let's understand what's actually happening beneath your scalp. Why is your hair falling out in the first place? Your hair grows in cycles. Each follicle goes through a growth phase, a rest phase, and a shedding phase. Under normal conditions, losing 50 to 100 hairs a day is completely natural. But when something disrupts that cycle, whether it is stress, poor nutrition, hormonal shifts, or physical damage, the shedding phase kicks into overdrive, while the growth phase slows down. That is when you start noticing thinning, breakage, and patches that will not fill in. Now here's what most people miss. External damage to the hair shaft and scalp can be just as destructive as internal factors. And the number one source of that external damage for millions of people? It happens every morning, right after stepping out of the shower. The one habit you need to stop: towel drying your hair aggressively. Yes, that's it. The way you dry your hair after washing it could be the single biggest reason it's falling out. And before you think this sounds too simple to be true, hear me out, because the science behind it is eye-opening. When your hair is wet, it is in its most fragile state. Water causes the hair shaft to swell. The outer protective layer, called the cuticle, lifts and opens up, leaving the inner structure completely exposed. Think of it like armor with all the shields raised. In that moment, your hair is vulnerable to everything: friction, pulling, snapping, and tearing. Now picture what most people do. They grab a regular cotton towel, throw it over their head, and rub back and forth vigorously. Some twist the hair up into a tight turban knot and leave it there for 20 minutes, pulling at the roots the entire time. This rough treatment creates microscopic tears along the hair shaft, rips out hairs that were still in their growth phase, and damages the follicle itself over time. And the worst part? You do this every single day. Day after day, week after week, month after month. The damage compounds. What starts as a few extra hairs on the towel eventually becomes noticeable. Thinning, frizz that will not calm down, and breakage that makes your hair look lifeless, no matter what products you use. The hidden damage you cannot see. This is where it gets really interesting. The friction from aggressive towel drying does not just break hair, it creates something called frictional alopecia. That is a form of hair loss caused purely by repeated mechanical stress on the hair and scalp. It is the same reason people who wear very tight ponytails or braids every day can develop traction alopecia along their hairline. With towel drying, the damage is spread all over. On top of that, when you rub a rough towel against your scalp, you irritate the skin. That irritation triggers low-level inflammation around the follicles. And chronic inflammation around hair follicles is one of the key mechanisms behind progressive hair thinning. Your body starts treating the follicle area as a problem zone, and eventually the follicle miniaturizes, producing thinner, weaker hairs until it stops producing hair altogether. So, it is not just about the strands you pull out today. It is about the long-term environment you are creating on your scalp, one that slowly suffocates healthy hair growth. Before we get to the solution, I want to ask you something. Had you ever considered that something as simple as drying your hair could be causing this much damage? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know. And if you are finding this helpful, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to Healthy Habits. Share this video with someone you know who is struggling with hair loss. It might be the one thing they needed to hear. Let's keep going. How to dry your hair the right way. Now that you know what's causing the problem, let's talk about the fix. And thankfully, it's incredibly simple. First, ditch the aggressive rubbing completely. When you step out of the shower, gently squeeze the excess water out of your hair using your hands. Start from the roots and work your way down to the tips, pressing softly, never wringing or twisting. Next, replace your regular cotton towel with a microfiber towel or even an old soft cotton t-shirt. This might sound strange, but there is a real reason. Microfiber has a much smoother surface than standard terry cloth towels. It absorbs water efficiently without creating the harsh friction that damages wet hair. The fibers are finer, softer, and gentler on both the hair shaft and the scalp. Instead of rubbing, use a patting and scrunching motion. Lay the microfiber towel over your hair and gently press it against your head, letting the fabric absorb the moisture naturally. If you want to wrap your hair, do it loosely, never twist it tight, and never leave it wrapped for more than 10 minutes. Here is an extra tip that can make a huge difference. Let your hair AIR dry whenever possible. If you must use a blow dryer, keep it on a low heat setting and hold it at least 6 inches away from your head. High heat on wet, vulnerable hair is another layer of damage most people do not think about. What happens when you make this change? The results won't be instant. Your hair needs time to recover. But people who switch from aggressive towel drying to gentle methods often start noticing changes within a few weeks. Less hair in the shower drain. Less breakage when brushing. Hair that feels smoother, stronger, and looks fuller over time. After a few months, the cumulative damage you have been inflicting for years starts to reverse. The cuticle layer heals, the follicles recover from chronic irritation, and the natural growth cycle gets back on track. Some people even notice baby hairs sprouting along their hairline. This is new growth that was being suppressed by constant mechanical stress. And the best part? It costs you nothing. No expensive serums, no prescriptions, no salon treatments. Just a small shift in a daily habit that takes 5 seconds to change. A few more morning mistakes to watch out for. While we are at it, there are a couple of other morning habits worth mentioning that amplify the damage. Brushing your hair when it is still soaking wet is almost as bad as rough towel drying. Wet hair stretches and snaps much more easily. If you need to detangle, use a wide-tooth comb and start from the ends, working your way up slowly. Also, tying your hair into a tight bun or ponytail right after washing, when it is still damp and fragile, puts enormous tension on the roots. If you need to tie it back, wait until it is mostly dry and use a soft scrunchie instead of a thin elastic band. These small adjustments, combined with gentle drying, create an environment where your hair can finally heal and thrive. So let's recap what you've learned today. Your hair is at its most vulnerable when wet. Rubbing it aggressively with a towel causes friction damage, pulls out healthy hairs, and creates chronic scalp inflammation that leads to progressive thinning. The fix is simple. Switch to a microfiber towel, pat instead of rub, skip the tight turban, and let your hair air dry when you can. You don't need to overhaul your entire life to keep your hair. Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest habits. And this one morning habit, the one you've probably been doing your whole life without a second thought, could be the difference between watching your hair disappear and watching it come back stronger than ever. So tomorrow morning, when you step out of the shower, pause. Put the towel down gently. Treat your hair the way it deserves. Your future self and your future hair will thank you. Now tell me in the comments, are you guilty of this habit? Be honest. And let me know if you are going to make the switch starting tomorrow. I read every single comment, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video with more tips to transform your health, naturally and powerfully.